Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at our bin that has the hamster bedding in it and my African night crawlers. Now this system was doing pretty well. The worms are just chewing through this material faster than my hamster produces it, but I did a time lapse, and last time I added that time lapse material to this system, and all of a sudden now it's got the same fruit fly issue that was in my time lapse video. So we're going to take a look at it. I don't know if you see some fruit flies have been coming off as we're recording here. But we're going to try to see if we can get rid of these fruit flies by adding this BTI mix. There was somebody in my comments who mentioned nematodes, and that's the best way to get rid of fruit flies and fungus gnats. If you know where to buy some that's reliable and good quality, let me know, and I will take a look at purchasing them and to see if they really work. But until then, I'm going to continue with my BTI mix that's easy to get, the mosquito dunks, and we're going to go from there. So I'm probably not going to add any food this week or any more bedding material in general, simply because I'm trying to control this issue and I really want to just pare everything down. The other thing I want to do is we're going to be harvesting some of these African night crawlers out of this system so that way I can add them to an urban worm bag that is set up and ready to go for African night crawlers. So with that, let's take a look at the system, let's see how it's doing, and from there we'll hopefully be able to take care of that issue and also take out some worms, because I bet the system is way overcrowded at this point. So let's take a look and see how it's doing. All right, so we're going to start here with our last date. It was 3/27. Today is the 11th of April. So that is, 14 days? So overall, I can already tell around the sides this bin is dried up. Now we're going to take off this cover here, and look at this. The worms don't look great. They need some moisture. We're going to shake them off this top here. They look a little lethargic, but there's a ton on this top. But that's okay, because we're going to add water. We're going to get this back up and running a little bit. But first off, what we're going to do here is actually we're going to harvest some of these worms right from the top. So I got my gloves on here. As I touch them, though, they kind of run around a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and grab some of these worms. Try to not grab the bedding material. I'm going to go ahead and put them in a container right next door, because we're going to add these to a system that's going to be loaded with beneficial microbes for them. I'll have a video on that coming up very shortly, because I'm going to add them right after this. I'm going to record that video as well, but I only try to post one video a day. But we're going to grab a whole bunch of these worms from the top, because I think that these worms need to spread out. We dumped in a whole lot of worms into this system when that other African night crawler system that I had going sort of stopped. These worms aren't looking the best on top right now, but we'll also dig down and see how they're doing underneath here in just a few minutes. Some of them are trying to wiggle away. There we go. So with that, let's just dig down here and take a look. And we can see this is kind of dry down here. So this desperately needs some water. Got some more worms wiggling away. I'm going to go ahead and grab these as well. And I'll show you what we've got at the end here. But I'm really hoping to get some worms into this large urban worm bag. This is the first version, and I've emptied it out. I had a video on emptying it out, and then we're going to refill it with these worms right here. This desperately needs some water in it, though, I could tell. And that's part of the problem that I've had with this, the weather here, is that it's going, look at this, you can just see how dry this is compared to how wet it should be. And they'll look better once we get this wet. It's the weather here in Maryland goes bonkers around this time of year, so we get like a ton of moisture in the air, and I turn off heating and stuff, and then I turn it back on, and it gets you just don't know what to expect. So right now I'm going through this issue where it's really dry, and then it's not dry, and then it's really dry, and then it's not dry. And the worms are paying the price for that, unfortunately, because the heater goes on and then it dries out the bin, and I'm not adding quite as much moisture as I would. And then it goes off, and I'm not adding enough moisture, or adding too much moisture. So my bins have a lot of issues this time of year. As you can see, though, this is almost all composted now. This really does look like they've really dug through here and turned a lot of this into compost. Actually, I'm not seeing as many fruit flies as I thought. I think maybe they calmed down. I am seeing quite a few mites on here, though. But you can see this material is just way too dry for them, and they're going to need more moisture in here. Now, in the urban worm bag, those bag systems with the lids, they are closed. They tend to hold in moisture a little bit better. And the fact that there's deeper systems, they also tend to have a little bit less issue with bedding, drying out or things like that, because they can just dig down a little deeper into the system, and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's how they can kind of move through there. So look at that. You can just see there's just lots of worms in here. I'm grabbing a whole bunch. And I've been trying to breed these worms up anyhow. So this is just another way to do that. Just spread them out a little bit. They're going to grow in size. Hopefully reproduce. Just look in this corner right here. Again, these corners are probably the most moist over here. So Look at that. You can just see though this material. This was moist over here. And there's more worms over here, but they're struggling because there's not enough moisture in this system. So we're not going to keep them like this too long. What we're going to do is we're not going to add any food this time. I am going to cover up that timestamp that I put on here with the new one showing today. Oops. Move it over just a little bit more. Just like that. So that way we know. And no dash, so there's no feeding. We're going to go ahead and cover these back up. But let me show you what I got over here first. So this is the worms that we got. That's a good size. It's not too many, but it's hard to tell because of their size. Like some of them are big, some of them are small, but these are all Africans, they look like. I mean, these are definitely wiggling around there a little bit. We're going to get these guys wet. We're going to get them in the new system, and I'll have a video on that later to show you what we're doing here to try to grow this population of worms. Actually, I'm going to grab a couple more up on the top here. Grow this population of worms, but also just take a little bit better care of them. I think this is this needs some moisture though. Let's do that real quick. Let's add some moisture before we go here. I've got my bucket of BTI mix. It's almost empty, so I'm just going to go ahead and dump this in. There we go. That's, I think, all that's in there. And that should add in quite a bit of moisture right there in the center. It's a little bit muddy, but that's okay. And hopefully this moisture will help out these guys. Actually, might need some more in here. I don't think this was quite enough for them. Now, luckily, the center section does stay a little bit more moist than the outsides. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add, actually, I think, a little bit more water. I do have another bucket over here that I can add some water from. So we're going to go ahead and add some water from this right here. I've got another container. This does not have BTI mix in it. We're just going to add in some more water and make sure that this is nice and moist in here. I know it's a little bit muddy. That's okay. It probably needs to be sorted out. Surprisingly, they've chewed through this material much faster than I ever expected compared to other material that I've had. But it'll dry back out as it goes, especially with the heating pad on since it's been dropping in temperature lately. But there we go. That's mixed in there. That's got some moisture for them. Hopefully that'll perk them up a little bit, get them moving again, and get them finishing up a little bit of this bedding material that's dried out on the edges here. So that's it for this update. I'm going to wash these worms off, and what I mean by that is I'm going to kind of dunk them in some water to get off some of the last remnants off of here, and then put them in their new system, which has been sitting with lab mix in it for a while, so a bacteria mix for a couple days, and get these guys going. So thank you for watching. I'll have the other video up tomorrow probably. But right now we're going to go ahead and put this cover back on. You can see there's a bunch of worms on there though. Look at that. On the bunch of baby worms on that cover. That's a good sign that they still are multiplying in there, but we're going to get this covered back up. We're going to get this back on the heating mat because I want to make sure that these worms stay warm. And that's it for this update. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. And stay tuned for the video tomorrow to see how these new worms are going to go into the new system in the urban worm bag. I should say the old system that I'm repurposing. So thank you for watching.